Here.
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 Okay.
Thank you. Well, please stand and let's do a moment of silence and the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, the first item of business would be the agenda. We do have an addition. Mike, you want to share that?
Sure. Recommending that you add the Housing Trust Fund special levy to your agenda, and suggest you do that after the HRA levy discussion, since we will have Neil here. He is the administrator for the Housing Trust Fund.
Thank you. So a motion would be in order to amend the agenda by adding G2. So moved. Commissioner Notch moves, Commissioner Clark seconds. Any discussion? If not, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion passes. Today we're going to begin the meeting by recognizing our employees who are celebrating their work anniversaries. At least one is here, and I know others are watching. So we're recognizing 44 employees from January 2025 to June 2025 is the period. And combined, these employees have 785 years of dedicated county service. So we certainly commend them, and I'll turn it over to Mike to do the presentation.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Good morning, everybody. As we all know, Stearns County is full of dedicated, hardworking employees who every day live out our values of professional, approachable, responsive, collaborative, and fair and equitable as they provide vital services to the people of the county. And we're going to take a little time today to honor and recognize those employees who are celebrating anniversaries at the first part of this year because they've hit those milestones in their careers here at the county. So we're going to take a few minutes and watch a PowerPoint that celebrates these employees. Fantastic. Once again, thanks to those 44 employees, and all our employees who exemplify our mission to provide exceptional public services. Your dedication to our important work makes life better for the people of Buff County, and that's really what we do around here, is hopefully make people's lives better. So on behalf of myself and the county board, we appreciate you and the work you do serving the residents of Stearns County.
How
Thank you
about a
very
round
much.
of applause? Thank you, Mike. In any organization, you're only as good as the person beside you, and certainly we are fortunate with close to 1,000 employees. It takes a lot of people to make things work, so we certainly appreciate the service. Next item would be the consent agenda. The consent agenda contains 18 items. I'm going to ask for F4 to be pulled. And just a comment on F2, you know, almost a little under $700,000 in buying 16 squad cars. Again, it's from the public standpoint. I always try to explain this all takes money, it takes planning, and the consent agenda F2 is purchasing 16 vehicles, and so it's important to do things like that to allow the government to continue to do what we need to do. So, anybody else want to pull anything? If not, a motion would be in order to recommend the consent agenda minus F4.
So moved.
Commissioner Clark moves it, Commissioner
Second.
Persky seconds it. Any further discussion? If not, all those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed, same sign. Should we do F4 right away? Why don't we do that, Shelley and Mark? The item is the approving the contract for household hazardous waste. It's a $750,000 contract for 5 years. And I asked a few questions, and I know they shared it with the full board, but again, from the public's perspective, how do we evaluate those? What are we doing? And they gave they gave us commissioners a lot of background, detailed information. I think some of that should be shared for the public, that they don't think that this is just a willy-nilly appropriation. So, Shelley?
Mr. Chair, Shelley Benson, Environmental Services Director. Heather Botcher from Procurement is here. She can explain the process that we use. One of the things that's required is that when we fulfill a contract and we are looking to do a new contract, we have to go out for bids. So, and we have a process for that. And Heather can explain the process, and Mark can explain the why if there's questions related to content.
Okay, thank you. Heather?
Mr. Chair, this is Heather Bretcher, Procurement Manager. We go through the request for proposals process. It's a very lengthy process, a lot of times taking 4 to 6 months for the whole process because we're building that RFP. We're working with the departments to make sure that we're meeting their scope of work that they want to meet. We're also looking at the evaluation criteria. Oftentimes it's between like 4 to 5 different evaluation criteria made up to make that decision. That RFP then is distributed through our bids and tender site. We want to make sure we are transparent. The vendors know exactly how we're going to award it because that evaluation criteria is included. Once we receive proposals, it is kept confidential but shared with our evaluation team. The evaluation team is usually comprised between 3 to 5 individuals. We make sure that there's no supervisor of all. So there's not just one person making that decision. We have people from multiple areas. Sometimes there are even people from outside agencies that are involved in that decision-making process. Everybody scores individually, and then we come together as a group to finalize that decision.
Thank you. Yes, it was a very detailed, I don't think I've ever seen that process before, so it was a learning experience for me, very detailed, very spelled out. So again, for the public standpoint, this isn't just on knee-jerk reaction. Any questions or anything on that item?
Well, Mr. Chair,
Commissioner Persky?
yeah, I'm just a little bit concerned about making a commitment for $750,000 over the next 5 years. With the advertising on that, you know, considering where the budgets are going with the cutbacks that we've seen and the score dollars that we're using, the return on that, I don't know, how do we necessarily know we're getting the return we'd like to be getting on that? So if, for example, those score dollars weren't there, would we really be using budgetary money to do the same thing? And I guess my opinion would be probably would not. But because there's those score dollars there, is there a way that we could be maybe using those score dollars to get greater participation in a household hazardous waste other than the advertising? I'm just thinking that $750,000 over 5 years is a big chunk of money. And is there a better way that we could be utilizing those dollars? And again, I'm just wondering, as far as advertising, are we really getting $150,000 of return on that advertising?
Somebody want to respond to that?
Mr. Chair.
Commissioner Notch?
Oh, I was just gonna say, you know, if they don't advertise, how would they know the extended hours of the household hazardous waste facility? You know, how would they know if we create programs? You know, if we do electronics, that's kind of where I look at it, is we're trying to build this program. In order to build it, you gotta spend money to make it happen. So that's my thinking on it.
Commissioner Clark?
And I was thinking we're locking in a price over a 5-year period, and if you divide it up, it's actually a pretty decent price. And you know, for those of us who've been urging expanded hours, it is an important component of it. So if it was $750,000 for 1 year, yeah, that would be an issue. But 5 years, it locks us in.
There was a previous contract? Was that 5 years, the one before this?
Mr. Chair, Commissioners, correct. We're coming off, this is the 5th year of a 5-year contract with vendor. The vendor does provide us metrics. In fact, I just got an email last week providing us those statistical metrics on how our advertising is doing. I can share those forward if you'd like, but in a nutshell, it's doing quite well. I can say from an advertising point, in 2018, when I stepped into this role, one of the first things we did is we dropped our advertising budget from what we were doing. That dropped our attendance dramatically in our programs. And since then, we've been building it back up to the point we are today. This year's budget does have $150,000 in our advertising budget, so the next 5-year proposal is staying status quo with this year. And if we don't do the advertising, as Commissioner Notch stated, we can't reach the public, and we aren't going to get the participation numbers that we're gearing or hoping for. So,
Was there a contract prior to the 5 years that are ending? Was there something prior to that, or did it just start the last 5 years?
Mr. Chair, Commissioners, prior to this last 5-year cycle, we continuously used a vendor. However, I'm not sure we were, that was prior to Heather helping us. We had a vendor helping us each year doing it. We didn't have any long-term contracts. The benefit of having a multiple-year contract also is, as Commissioner Clark stated, we kind of lock in some prices. It really helped us this last 5 years to be able to lock in and get better prices the longer we went out, specifically for some of the items like, I point over here. I think I'm at the service center when I point over here. I'm referring to the billboard over the top of Woods Nursery. If you're all familiar with that, we have that one quite a few of the months of the year. We use that as a directional turn here, go to HHW. We were able to secure that into the future for a number of years and got a better rate on it because of it. So our vendor is able to do those types of things, and they are giving us the best bang for our buck. So
The one thing, to Commissioner Notch's comment, the electronics, I don't know how well that was advertised, but obviously you didn't need to do it too much, because word of mouth, when you tell people you're gonna have the hazardous unit in town or the tire collection, or they find out about it pretty quick. So, and I guess Commissioner Persky's point, yes, I would always rather put money towards the actual collection, subsidizing the collection with some of the problem materials, no doubt about it. But yeah, it's all kind of a package. The one thing Shelley and I have talked about several times, including this morning, Mike, is we really need to have a deeper discussion on the, I think there's $9 million in the fund, and SCORE, I always get confused exactly how that's broken down, but there is a tax that we collect 8% as part of all this, and everything. We really should have a larger discussion about what should we do with that fund, because the fund's become extremely healthy. And I know some people want to build a building and everything else, and I'm not sure about all that, but maybe we should look. Most counties do not have an additional tax. Kansas County and Stearns are the only two in the immediate area that have an additional tax to the state tax, which is 17%. So, but some of those discussions we probably should have. It's a larger discussion beyond this. And Shelley agrees, and she said, or I said that we'll talk to Mike, and now we are. So maybe we should have that discussion at some point, probably. Anything else?
Mr. Chair, yeah, as far as my point is considered, advertisement reaches a saturation, and I'll just use the example of North Star. You can advertise North Star, but people just weren't taking it, and it just wasn't a matter of convenience. And once you make it convenient, then I think you see an increase when people are getting a result at little effort. And so when we did the collection of the electronics, that went over big, but we didn't necessarily have to do any special advertising for that. Likewise, if we do the tire collection as well, if we just put it on our website and get it out on word of mouth, get it on the radio stations, we get that type of reaction. But billboards and bus wraps and Facebook things reaches a saturation point to those people that are doing it. The rest of the folks just seem to tend to ignore that. So again, I would like to see a more practical use of those dollars. That's just where I'm coming from.
Commissioner Clark?
Yeah, I'm going to make a motion to approve. I agree with, you and I've talked about this many times. I agree with a lot of the questions you're raising. I think probably we all do. And my understanding was there was a lot of advertisement out there about those days to get people out there. So it's a both, and we've talked before, and Commissioner Persky and I got to serve on a mini work group on this at one point, and figuring out what the best ways are to do this. It can't be the only way, right? The paid advertisement. If Facebook posts are shared with us, we can get it. We've got other ways of doing, that. But we haven't yet gotten to the point, and we're not going to have it in front of us today about adding staff or expanding so we can take other things. This is part of it, and the Saturday numbers aren't where we want them to be yet, so we probably do need to be doing something. So like I said, I'm going to make a motion to approve it, and I want to just recognize that, I do share the issues that you've brought up.
Commissioner Clark moves item F4 on the consent
And
agenda.
I'll second it.
Commissioner Notch seconds it. The usage on the hazardous facility, like on the Saturday or extended hours, it's just like in business. If you're going to be open at night or you're not going to be open on Monday, it takes people months or a year to figure that out. So part of it is just keep doing what you're doing, and then people will, slowly learn. But again, whatever we can do to increase taking the problem materials like the tires and electronics, that's where the priority, in my opinion, should be. And then let's take a look at the budget at some point, I guess would be my point. Commissioner?
Just one final comment. I want to praise household hazardous waste for what they're doing. We don't need to be putting that stuff in the landfill. And by getting folks out there to bring their fertilizer, bring their paint, bring the chemicals, all those things is what we want to see happen. And also the reuse store, I think that's fantastic. Oftentimes those shelves get filled and they get depleted almost on the same day. And so I'd like to see that continue by all means.
Thank you. Thank you
And
for the
being in the
comments.
communities, I've seen it firsthand. That's where you gotta, remember what they asked Jesse James, why do you rob banks? He said, that's where the money is. If you want to get the collection of hazardous material, you gotta go where the hazardous material is, and that's out in the rural areas. It's at the cleanups, and so you're doing that, keep doing that. And so a motion's been made and second to approve item F4 on the consent agenda. Any further discussion? If not, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign.
Aye.
Okay.
Okay. Commissioner Notch?
Aye.
Commissioner Persky?
Nay.
Commissioner Clark,
Aye.
Commissioner Bertram,
Aye.
motion carries 3-1.
Okay. Next item is the Auditor-Treasurer, Randy Schreifels, the HRA levy request. Neil's here.
So the county board has to approve the Stearns County HRA levy, and Neil's here to go over that.
Welcome, Neil.
Good morning, Neil Fortier, Executive Director, Stearns County HRA. Great to be before you guys this morning. The HRA is asking for a $50,000 increase in our annual levy. And the reason for the increase is due to changes at HUD. And it's really hard to say what the current administration will continue to do, but they are reducing the administrative fees issued to housing and redevelopment authorities throughout the nation. And so we saw a substantial reduction in our, not substantial, a reduction in our administrative fees for the last fiscal year. And our agency, out of our funds, had to subsidize the program, which we have for as long as I've been at the agency, and at least another 7 years beyond that, continues to subsidize the Section 8 voucher program for Stearns County. And for the last fiscal year, that subsidy was $113,000. The previous year, that subsidy paid out of our general fund, out of the agency's general fund, was $77,000. So you can see each year we continue to subsidize this program to the benefit of 297 households in Stearns County at, again, $113,000. So if we look at fiscal year 2024, the average cost per household, average levy dollars per household was $1,744. With the increase that I am requesting, that would increase the levy per household to $1,963. One thing I do want you to note is that every indication is that the federal government will continue to make modifications to HUD's programs. They've made substantial changes to their website. They've removed a substantial amount of information, particularly when it comes to housing homeless individuals. We have no idea where the current administration stands on that particular subject, but we are already seeing the impact of those decisions. Due to the uncertainty, we made application to Minnesota Housing back in May for the Bring It Home Rental Assistance Program. What that is a state-funded housing choice voucher program that the legislature approved for a period of 2 years. We asked for 100 vouchers. We were awarded 69. We should begin administering that program hopefully by December 31st of this year. It all depends upon how fast Minnesota Housing can put these contracts together with each of the housing authorities throughout the state. Because of that writing on the wall with the current administration, we thought it would be prudent for our agency to go after these vouchers. So we'll be able to help an additional 69 families starting sometime this year. That comes with a budget, and the legislature only budgeted funds for that program for 2 years. So we're not sure what's going to happen after that 2-year period. But bottom line is our agency continues to look for other resources to help the households throughout Stearns County. I know St. Cloud HRA was awarded Bring It Home vouchers as well. They had asked for a substantial number of them. all of us saw a reduction from our ask, but at least we were able to offset some of the things that HUD is doing to our agencies to help our households in Stearns County. I am open to any questions that you may have.
How long has the levy been in place, Randy or Neil?
Oh, since I've been here, it's been a long, long time.
Okay. And it's grown then over the years, or was it always 200,000?
No, it certainly has grown over the
Okay.
years.
And then explain the exemption of the city of St. Cloud.
So,
I know that, but for the public standpoint.
sure. So there's two housing and redevelopment authorities within Stearns County. And then St. Cloud HRA also serves Sherburne and Benton as well. So they have their allocation from HUD to serve that jurisdiction, and then Stearns County has an allocation from HUD to serve that jurisdiction. The state of Minnesota elected to follow those same jurisdictions.
And none of the money, Neil, from the levy will go to any program or anything in the St. Cloud because they have their own
Correct,
program.
correct.
Commissioner Notch?
Yeah, Mr. Chair. So Neil, can you kind of just explain like those 69 vouchers, how they work, or what type of assistance that they provide?
Sure, it's modeled after the federal Section 8 program. The only difference is, and it's a substantial difference, is that these vouchers issued by the state of Minnesota are non-portable. So they only can be used within Stearns County with the exception of the city of St. Cloud. The other caveat with these vouchers is after 2 years, they're done. So these people that we will open up a new wait list for households, and they will have to be told initially that they're non-portable, and after 2 years, the voucher is gone, unless the state of Minnesota comes to the table with some additional funding. Based upon the current environment, we don't see that happening.
Commissioner Notch?
And Mr. Chair, and so when you say portable, do you know what percentage that you have now are people who are portable or that move?
So right now, we have 297 vouchers issued through the HUD Section 8 project, Section 8 Housing Choice Voucher Program. Every single one of those vouchers, after 12 months of occupancy in Stearns County, become portable. So a household can decide, I'm going to take my voucher and I'm going to move to another jurisdiction.
Oh,
That's the HUD program. That is not part of the state program whatsoever. We see a substantial amount of our clientele, our households, transfer after 12 months. They may transfer within the same jurisdiction, and we see a lot more of that than transfer from Stearns County to Washington County.
so that
Commissioner Notch?
voucher goes with them then?
Correct, after 12 months.
And then Washington County takes it up from there?
Not necessarily.
Not necessarily, Commissioner Notch. They can choose to absorb the voucher,
Oh, okay.
and then they would be responsible for funding that voucher, or they can choose not to absorb that voucher, and then those funds continue to come out of our pool in Stearns County.
So how do you police that, or how do you audit that? If, you know,
It's actually audited by several different entities,
Okay.
Including HUD, but annually we are audited as an agency, and they review that process. And then, yeah, so those two entities right there audit that program. If you fail to follow the regulations that HUD has laid out, you will lose your funding.
But the basis is you only have those 297 vouchers.
Correct,
And they can be spread wherever.
correct,
Okay.
correct, in Stearns County. Yeah,
But if they move,
After a year.
after a year,
but you're still limited to, or now you get another opening for Stearns County?
no.
So you're,
If the receiving agency does not absorb, those funds are still coming out of our pot of money. So that's one less household that we can serve in Stearns County. The current environment, excuse me, Commissioner Notch, the current environment is 99% of receiving agencies are absorbing vouchers. 2 years ago, it was a whole different story. No one was absorbing.
So then that frees up Stearns County another voucher.
Correct.
Gotcha.
Correct.
And as a member of the HRA board, and Commissioner Clark and I are on the trust fund board, that was really odd to me, because I know we had one voucher that was in Duluth. And, you know, I said, what's this for? You know, of course, God bless government regulation and how they do it, but
Chairman Persky, Commissioners, one other, on the flip side too, is, you know, we absorb, Stearns County HRA absorbs vouchers, and so we're able to serve those households when they come into Stearns County. We see quite a bit of
do
that.
we ever not absorb a voucher that comes into Stearns County?
Today, we do not absorb because we do not have the funding to absorb.
So
Commissioner
well,
Notch?
you can't absorb if you're 297 are used up, right?
Yep.
Commissioner Clark?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And Mr. Forte, just to, I guess, hope you'll clarify a few things. But one thing is, I mean, the reason why HUD originally did this is we're citizens of a country, so we get to move wherever we want. And so the thought was it moved with. Now, that's not to say it wouldn't also make sense that the new, like, they don't want to add more money, so that's why they don't. It'd be nice if we got to keep our person and the person got to move, but they still have to qualify, so that's a good thing. But the levy request, is for 50,000 more than it was last year, so it's for 575. Is that correct? Can
That
you
is
just
correct,
make sure?
Commissioner.
Okay.
Yep.
And then with the St. Cloud HRA, the reason why they're doing those other parts of those two counties is because they're in the city,
Correct.
right?
Correct.
And I was curious, and I'm sorry, I know we could get moving on with this, but given we've got 9 counties around us, how much movement are you seeing between the counties? Or even between St. Cloud and the rest of Stearns?
Most of the movement is between Stearns County and St. Cloud and Stearns County.
Makes sense.
We're finding more vacancies outside of the city of St. Cloud than we are within the city of St. Cloud. So we're seeing a lot of movement there. But up until recently, you know, we were able to absorb those coming from the city of St. Cloud into Stearns County. And today we still, because they absorb our ports, we're absorbing their ports. So it works out that way.
Commissioner Clark?
Yeah, and just to follow up real quick, I mean, it is an interesting thing, you know, for the people who might be listening to this, you think about it, if something opens up in Waite Park and you're still working right here, you might move there, or maybe you find a great place in Freeport or something, you know, people are moving around, so that certainly makes some sense.
Yep.
Commissioner Persky, or Chairman Persky, I guess.
Likewise on Commissioner Clark's question, how about movement between the counties? I mean, with Benton County and Sherburne County and St. Cloud, obviously our jurisdictions affect things, but oftentimes people make preferences based on relatives or availability of things like that. What's the relationship between the counties?
We actually have great relationship with Candy, Ojai, Sherburne, Benton, where they're porting to our county and we're porting to their county. And so we're able to absorb back and forth, so that works out quite well. What we're seeing more of right now is people porting from Stearns County to the 7-county metro area.
And
There's
Mr.
one
Chair,
Duluth,
yeah.
unless that dropped off, I'm not sure. Commissioner Persky?
And then with changes at the federal level on health and human services and some of the other budgets, what impact do you think that's going to be having as far as continuing any of these programs?
We're getting Commissioner Persky, we're getting so many mixed, we're not getting any information. So we're not getting mixed messages. We're just not getting any information other than the funding for the next fiscal year for HUD has been approved And so we know we are good until June of 2026. We won't find out until April of next year what the impact is on our agency. But what we're seeing them do is reduce the fees paid to the agency for administering this program. So they're expecting us to do more with less. And we all anticipate that trend to continue.
And then is there any
Commissioner
lobbying
Persky?
effort as far as maintaining those programs and encouraging the legislature or federal government to continue them? How are we working on that?
Commissioner Persky, there is a lot of work being done by housing authorities here in the state of Minnesota. Minnesota Housing Partnership is a huge agency here in the state of Minnesota that does a significant amount of lobbying and advocating for these programs. They are before the federal government on a weekly basis, just about at this point in time in the game, and will continue to do so until there's some certainty regarding these programs. So we're seeing Minnesota NARO heavily involved, and the National NARO organization being in front of all our legislatures promoting the Section 8 Housing Choice Voucher Program. The impact of eliminating that program, I mean, just in Stearns County is 300 families.
Yeah.
So it's pretty significant.
And I just want to say
Commissioner
that's
Persky?
maybe something we can be advocating strongly for too as well.
Yes. Thank you, Commissioner.
I obviously, I understand it, I support it. However, it does concern me because we got 50,000 on the levy here. We've got the Clearwater Watershed District that is positioned to potentially do an increase of 50,000 in their levy. We got the Railroad Authority that's going to do $25,000. Of course, we got the airport, and we continue to go down this levy roll of nickel and diming people, and of course, when they see their tax statement, they're wondering what are all these things, and so certainly support it, but boy, sooner or later, my grandfather, when I was 9, said there'll come a time when people will be taxed off their land. Of course, I didn't have a clue what he was talking about then, but I'm feeling it now, and he's been gone for a long time. So that's a concern, obviously. More of a statement than anything else. Looking for a motion to accept Stearns County HRA Housing 2025 levy request. Stearns County HRA is requesting a $50,000 increase over the current year in their levy amount, which would make it $575,000. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Commissioner Clark moves that. Commissioner Clark seconds it. I could see she wanted to second it, so I jumped ahead.
I'll second.
Any further discussion? If not, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion is approved. The next item is the Housing Trust Fund. Who wants to explain that? Neil, too, or Mike, or?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair. I'll let Neil speak to this mostly. But we first levied for the Housing Trust Fund, now I'm going to forget, was it 23 or 24?
2024.
2024, so, and again in 2025, so this is a request to levy that $200,000 for the Housing Trust Fund in 2026, and as certainly Commissioner Clark and Bertram know, the Housing Trust Fund was activated and did fund a number of projects, which I think Neil can give us a summary about.
Yes, thank you. Commissioners, Mr. Chair, I do have a couple board members present. Obviously, Commissioner Clark, Commissioner Bertram serve on the Housing Trust Fund Board. And I also have Robert Johnson here as well, who serves on our Housing Trust Fund Board. And we met back in June to review applications that have been submitted to the Housing Trust Fund, and we received 11 applications, And out of the 11 applications, the board approved 9 of those applications. Of the 9, we had 5 that were commercial applications, so they were for larger projects, and then the remaining were for single-family residential. I can tell you that over the past 6 weeks, we have issued checks from the Housing Trust Fund for 4 of the residential projects. And just to give you an idea of what those projects are, we're seeing a lot of window and door replacement, foundation repair, and roof replacement. And we're seeing these in small rural communities. We've had 4 in Melrose, actually 1 in Sauk Center, and we are looking at another one in Melrose. Melrose has done a fantastic job of promoting this program to their community. The commercial projects are spread throughout the county. We have 1 in Paynesville, 1 in St. Cloud, 1 in Freeport, and a second one in St. Cloud. We're at a bit of a, what's the word I'm looking for? Pause on the commercial projects. The Housing Trust Fund Board approved these commercial projects, but they approved them with conditions. Any commercial project must follow the ordinance, and the ordinance is very clear. There must be some form of local participation in your project in order for these funds to be approved. So out of the 5 commercial projects, only 1 has met that requirement, and that is in Freeport.
Go Freeport.
So, will the others be able to meet the requirement? I feel pretty strongly that at least 3 more will be able to meet that requirement. It just takes time. There has to be public hearings and go through the process with local municipalities in order to get that support. The support can be all different forms, but the typical support is tax increment financing or a local employer participating in the project. So they just have to work through the process. So the ordinance is written so that annually an additional $200,000 will go into the fund. I can tell you that based upon the applications that were approved by the Housing Trust Fund Board, $451,000 was approved, leaving $404,000 round numbers left in the fund for additional applications. I am expecting 2 more applications within the coming weeks. One is a commercial application. The other is a single-family application. But that would be capped about $120,000. And then the levy would add an additional $200,000 to that fund. And we'll continue to keep the application process open. I am available for any questions.
Mr. Chair,
Mike?
and the resolution was put on your, on the dais this morning, and just as a reminder now, this levy is levied on the entire county, so includes the city of St. Cloud.
Right. I was going to point out when you said 2 of them are from St. Cloud, this is different than the previous item that we talked about. So good point, Mike. And of course, the need, as we saw with the applications, is much greater than what we have resources for. But I am happy that it is spread throughout the county. Housing is in crisis. Any little bit that we can do to address it, I think, is obviously a positive thing for people. If you can't live in a community, you can't work, it makes it harder for you to work in the community. Employers are feeling that pinch, and so it's a cyclical concern, I guess, all the way around. Commissioner Clark?
I think Commissioner Notch had his hand up first, but I'll be happy to go.
That's the beauty of the chair. I get to pick
Oh,
who.
well, if you wanna go- you certainly could call on me first if you like.
Commissioner Clark.
Okay, I was gonna say, I was gonna make a motion to approve with a comment. And the comment really is that, you know, this is not in the bigger scheme of the housing needs a lot of money, but so far we're being able to leverage it. And as we were putting this together, it was important that, I even think for our previous conversation, that it is open to all of our residents and communities, because people do move around, and our employers employ people from different parts of the county. So very much appreciate the work so far that's being done.
Thank you, Commissioner Clark. So the motion would be to approve the resolution for the levy special tax, Stearns County Local Trust, Housing Trust Fund, $200,000, taxable valuation with Stearns County for a year. Commissioner Notch wants to second that, and he wants to ask a question.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'll second it, and the question just was, is there a cap on how much each project is awarded?
Yes, Commissioner Notch, the Housing Trust Fund Board met and put together very specific parameters for commercial properties. They are limited at $100,000, and single-family homes are limited at $20,000.
Thanks.
Okay. Any further discussion on that? Not, motion's been made and seconded. All those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed, same sign. Motion passes.
Thank you.
And once in a while, Neil, what the report that we get for the trust fund board and even the HRA board, it maybe wouldn't hurt either for you to give it to Mike, or just you do it directly to the board, of just saying, this is the most recent stuff that we're involved with, that we're assisting.
Certainly.
Probably wouldn't hurt to keep us up to date.
Understood.
Yep, thank you. Next item is going to be conduct a public hearing for the consideration of the fee schedule changes for 2026. I don't know if you want to prep it, Mike or Shelley?
I can prep it a little bit here. So
Randy?
the board saw these changes and did a work session a couple weeks ago. Some changes were made. We have a short PowerPoint presentation to share, and then like you said, it is a public hearing. We have not received any comments from the public, which is not uncommon, but with that, I'll turn it over to Sarah, and I'll let the presenters introduce themselves.
Okay.
All right. Good morning, Commissioners. Sarah Utsch, Finance Director in the Auditor-Treasurer's Office. We have a short presentation to go through prior to requesting opening of the public hearing. So some of this, as you may recall, we did have a workshop with the county board on August 12th to go through the fee changes line item by line item. So we are not going to do that again here at this meeting. We're going to highlight some of the changes since we were before you, and also put some of the changes up on the screen just to kind of go through them in a quicker pace than we did originally. But as a reminder of the process, the Auditor-Treasurer's Office does look at 25% of the county fees annually, work with the departments on that, and we talk about the staff time and the cost to provide the service, and then we work with the department to come across other comparisons and bring that before the board for consideration.
Okay.
Some of the fee changes that we have that are not environmental services this year, I have up on the screen. These were the ones that were published on the county's website and are on page 159 of your board packet. So these are ones that we've talked about previously, talked about the notary fee. That's a specification there is on non-county transactions. We charge a notary fee. If it's part of your transaction doing business with the county, then it's included in whatever you're having done. And then the other three are new fees that came about in each of those departments based on either statutory items or in the sheriff's instance, they were already receiving a donation for that, and they just want to put it on the fee schedule so it's known ahead of time on what they would like to charge for those services to be performed.
On the sheriff's one, is the horse considered a staff person?
I think they're a unit.
You don't do it by legs like environmental services does with the
Let's do that. Let's do $30 per leg.
We just always got to be proactive. You never know what's going on.
These human services ones here are more of a where they're combining them or they're changing the names just for outdated language. So there isn't much here other than the eliminating of the family child care license, which we talked about. The state took over some of the background checking, and this is a way to reduce the fees put on those childcare providers. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to Shelley on environmental services. Page 162 of your board packet lists all the detail that you had seen in August 12th as well about the cost of service and what the fee would be to capture those costs. And so Shelley has various divisions within our environmental services. Each one of those is a different page or group of pages in your board packet. So I listed them in the spread on here as each division separately so we could look at them that way. And with that, I'll turn it over to Shelley.
Good morning, Mr. Chair, members of the board. Shelley Benson, Environmental Services Director. I have my two supervisors here in the program areas where we are looking to make some changes. First, we have Mark Lateral in food and beverage and sewage and solid waste. So those would be the main ones. And then we have also some zoning changes that are being requested, and Angie Berg will go through those with you. So let's start out on page 7 and see if you have any questions for us. I think Commissioner Bertram, you indicated you had some questions about some of the fees related to food and beverage.
Right, and I think maybe it works the best is if we get the overview and then we'll get the public testimony, and then maybe after the public testimony, that works. That's when I'll do that.
Sure, so Mark, you wanna go through your big picture food and beverage? We were looking at about approximately 20% change in that food and beverage area, and we did talk about that at the previous meeting. And then in sewage, we did the same thing. We looked at about 20%, and there was some variation in household hazardous waste. But I think the more important is the zoning changes that we looked at. As a broad overview, there is a variation in our percentage of change because we were trying to look at how much should we be capturing in the zoning area. And there is variation on that percentage change. It's not consistent like it would be in the other areas. And one most important change would be in that vacation, short-term vacation rental area. We did ask for some changes to that area. I think that was most, Commissioner Notch had brought that up. So we did look to make some changes to recognize how much commercial value there is associated with that, and that those individuals going through that process would be recovering those costs.
So Shelley, if we wanna, I have the zoning changes up on the screen if that's the topic we're on right now. I have 3 columns on here because I wanted the board to understand where we're at today, where we were on August 12th, and then the changes that are proposed from August 12th through today based on conversation that was had and departmental recommendations. So Shelley's talking about the vacation short-term rental. You'll see those towards the bottom of that. We talked about $400 an initial year is where it is today. We proposed $500 on August 12th, and then based on feedback and decisions, we are looking at an $800 with different tiers. So
Right.
If we want to pause on this, just to absorb that, zoning is an area that we looked at or re-looked at, the department re-looked at upon time from the workshop. And then we'll pause on zoning for a minute, and then we'll work backwards a little bit from your presentation because zoning was kind of towards the end, so maybe we'll
go backwards.
We'll go backwards, sorry
We do
about
that
that.
sometimes, sorry. I've been known to go backwards a few
Okay,
times.
so in zoning, your proposed increases to 21 individual fees from 2025 to today. 10 of those are what we are re-looked at again after discussions with the board at workshop, and those are the ones I just showed you. There was an elimination of one fee, and that had to do with the variance application fee. We had 2 separate ones, whether you're in shoreland and not, and those were just combined on the fee schedule. And then as we talked about the short-term rentals, there's a proposed change in that.
Could we frame that and put that in everybody's offices, that we actually sometimes can reduce fees or eliminate fees?
Yep.
That could be a new standard that we could work towards.
That would be nice. Okay, so now let's look at, shoreland. That's another one of those areas where there's 17 individual fees from 2025 until our proposed that we're looking to change. 3 of those we changed from August 12th to today. Those are the ones on the screen or in your presentation. The county is not asking for any new or eliminated fees from today to 2026. So today's fee listing may have however many fees. Those are the same exact fees we're looking at in the future. We're looking to increase some of the dollar amounts of that.
Mr. Chair,
Commissioner Clark?
just so that I make sure I heard you right, we're keeping the same list of fees.
Yes.
Yes.
But the proposal is to increase some of the fees.
Yep.
And some of those fees are different based on the conversation in our last meeting, or the meeting of the 12th. Okay.
Yep.
Thank you.
Okay.
I wanted to make sure.
Mr. Chair,
Commissioner Persky?
looking at the shoreline, obviously, the shoreline alteration permit major is a major shift. Am I looking at that correctly?
Mr. Chair, Commissioner Persky, yes. The intention was to try to make and look at, are there ways for people to promote going into a minor permit versus a major permit? Because there's less disturbance on the minor permits. And when we have those major permits, the amount of review and time, it's excessive. But the more we can shift people into a minor permit, the happier we are. And generally, it's a little more stable project, less impact. Angie, if you wanted to add anything to that?
Mr. Chair, Angie Berg, Environmental Services. The major shoreline alteration permit is processed as a conditional use permit. Therefore, we're matching the conditional use permit price or fee with the major. So that's the other reason.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I'm in agreement with that.
And there's very few now, really, as Shelley indicated. Many go under a minor. I think we've had maybe 3 this year is all.
Okay.
So we do collect more on those because they require a much greater level of oversight.
Right. And then we've had issues in the past about after the fact with these. Is there any way that there's an after the fact charge on any of these, or how we handle those folks that go ahead and do something and then say, oh, I didn't know I had to have a permit for that?
That's gone up significantly, I think.
Mr. Chair, Commissioner Persky, we aren't proposing changes to that. I know you did comment on that at the work session as well. And my statement at that time was you could make the fee $5,000 or $10,000, and it's not going to deter certain people from doing an after the fact. I think the goal of the after the fact fee is to collect, it's a tiered approach. Let me find that page for you.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, yeah, so let me pull that up. So a major without a permit is the initial. So basically, this is based on former Commissioner Haas had this theory way back when, is if you get them to comply right away, the fee should be less. Mm-hmm. So we have a tiered approach. It's $2,200, $2,500, and $2,800. So if they contact us right away and start working on a solution, it's $2,200 for a major. If they don't, and we have to keep on them for compliance, then it goes up. Minor is the same. It's 3 times the permit fee, and then again, it's first, second, third tier notice.
Yeah.
So,
Commissioner Persky?
And of course, my concern is that we've got very conscientious residents here that do the right thing, and they try to be environmentally sensitive to what's going on. And then we have those folks that just say, well, I'll just pay the fee and move the project forward, which to me isn't in the best interest of the environment or the rules, so.
Okay.
Okay, moving on from shoreland, Mark, and sewage.
Sure. Mr. Chair, Mark Lateral, Environmental Services Supervisor. Within the sewage program, there are proposed 17 individual increases in the fee schedule. There has not been any changes to the fee amounts presented to the board during the August 12th workshop. There are no new or eliminated fees from the previous schedule, and we are looking at an average of a 20% increase to each of the fees to help offset the increased cost of providing the service to the county in that program. So,
Do you want to move on to the food, beverage, lodging?
sure.
That's had a,
Sure. Well, and Mr. Chair, Commissioners, within the food, beverage, lodging program, there are proposed 44 individual fee increases. There has not been any changes listed in the fee amounts that were presented to the board on August 12th. Some of the new fees that were added were an add-on HACCP license fee. That's in addition to the food service license fee that the establishment would get. This would fall more in line with the state fee structure. We've added a penalty for a late submittal of a special event license application. If an applicant submits it less than 5 days to their event, it would be twice the license fee. And then we did change the structure of the plan review for plan review fees and categorize them into the low, medium, and high risk categories. Everybody was treated equally prior in the prior fee schedule at a $1,000 review. Now that ranges from $490 to $1,200 based on that risk value. So.
and then the last division that had just a couple changes is HHW, or solid waste.
Correct. We had just a few minoring changes there. It dealt with the mobile unit, and when we send our mobile unit on the road, what we charge for the rig to go to a out-of-county event, plus the staff time there as well. We did add one new fee for our e-waste. As we're planning to ramp up an e-waste program at the facility, we do have a $10 per screen fee being proposed in this fee schedule.
Okay.
Okay, so we went through those pretty quick. Just wait while I get to the proposed changes. If you include all environmental services division changes that were in front of you today, that would bring an additional revenue to Stearns County of between $225,000 and $275,000. That number, of course, is based on the number of fees that we have, the number of permits, the number of people that need these services, and then an additional $22,100 approximately for HHW, which is a non-levy fund, right? So if you increase fees there, it's non-levy, but these other ones help support a levy-funded Department of Environmental Services. And with that quick summary, our request for board action today is to first open the public hearing and then to be able to talk through any questions, concerns, and comments the board may have, and eventually come to an agreed upon fee schedule that we would be in effect for January 1st of 2026.
Okay. With that, then we'll open the public hearing. Is there anybody here that would like to speak towards the proposed fee adjustments? And as Mike said, we didn't get any comments. Certainly nobody's here to talk about it because they don't know about it. When they're going to know about it is when they go pay a fee, and then that's when they're going to find out about it, and that's just the way it is. So just because no one responded doesn't mean, and it's kind of our job to be proactive with that, in my opinion. So, but is there anyone else or anyone here for this public hearing? If not, then we'll close the public hearing. And then, I've been extremely patient, so bear with me now. I'm just gonna have some questions, and first of all, again, I don't know, is that spreadsheet available to the public, I assume? That spreadsheet that lists all the fees? And
That was in the board packet,
Yep.
so then if
it-
they
it's
look in the board
So
packet, yeah.
what's important to note, I think, for the public is that the people who apply for these permits vary from 1 to 300. I mean, some of these permits affect a lot of people, some hardly affect anybody. And just as a side note, and I'm going to ramble, I'm going to go through, like you did, Sarah, I'm going to jump all over the place. So I'm going to
We're
go
ready
in
for
order
you.
the pages of what it is here. The septic system inspection. Now, I thought we didn't get involved in that we farmed that out, the septic system.
Mr. Chair, Commissioners, the county is responsible for the as-built inspections, meaning when a system is being replaced, tank drain field is being replaced on a property, we are the ones going out to do that inspection. We do not get, the department does not get involved with compliance inspections, existing system compliance inspections. So those are the ones that are serving your home now. You want to sell your house,
you contact the private inspector, have them come do the state inspection protocol, turn in the forms, give that to us as the record retention. We do not get involved with those, but we do the as-built for the new and the repairs, the fixes, staff goes.
Would there be a benefit to doing it all one way or the other? You know, why are we involved in some and not involved in others? Should we just turn everything over? It's more of a philosophical, long-term, not something we're gonna do today, but have you ever thought of that or looked into that?
Years ago, we did have 2 contract inspectors that would help us do work. However, I don't know off the top of my head, I do not know the exact requirements from the state for us to run our program. Given that sewage is a mandated program, I do believe we do have to have a licensed inspector on staff or inspectors on staff. I would have to research that to see if there would be benefit. I do know when we used to do the compliance inspections, we would do those, and we had some various methodology to get those completed. I will say that it was more cost effective for the resident. And once we stepped away from doing that, residents did feel a larger hit in their pocket for that service. So
I think if you wouldn't mind researching that and then sharing with the board what that is. I think Shelley may remember a recent incident where I think that person that we did have on staff did certify a septic system, and then now it's being said that it's not compliant. And then, of course, we go back to that person that said it was compliant. Well, he's not here anymore, and that part of the department, so it causes some confusion is more what I'm looking at than I am with the dollar amount. I mean, if we can just have a one-stop shop where if it is external, then they take care of that, they kind of do it for the county. Do we need to be involved would be my bigger question. And again, it's a philosophical question. I'll have several of those. The re-inspection for the septic system. So what's the re-inspection? So you got an inspection, and then what's the re-inspection?
Right, Mr. Chair, Commissioners, the reinspection fee covers if staff show up to an inspection. All of our inspections are scheduled for a specific date, time to meet the contractor on site. We get there, they're not even close to being done to the point of inspection, or they had a mechanical failure and they can't do the inspection, but then bother to call off the inspection. We have costs going out there, sending our staff out there to do it. So then a reinspection fee could be levied to cover the cost of a second trip out to do the work we intended to do in the first trip, so.
Okay. And then, and again, this is not something you're probably going to be able to answer today, but if you wouldn't mind following up with this, are any, and this is a more broader approach, Shelley, but are any of these fees mandated activities that other counties don't mandate? I mean, are we charging fees for things that we're requiring that other counties don't necessarily require? And again, I don't expect you to answer that today, but just to kind of put it in, what do you do this review like every 5 years? And
Every 4 years.
Every three?
Three.
I think it's 3. We're every 3rd year.
I had to look twice. I wasn't sure how many fingers Angie had up. I'm only used to seeing one finger. But, so 3 years, so this is a time to kind of look at these things, and then like that other issue, have you thought about that, or, you know, do you want to look at that? But that would be a question, I guess, again, the board, I think, would appreciate knowing is, what are we requiring as far as the fees for an activity that maybe other counties don't require? And then fees, I made this point at the work session. Some of this is we're already paying staff, that's already budgeted, it's already part of department budgets. So they are getting, department people are getting paid for some of that already, and then the fee is above and beyond that. And a lot of these fees, again, don't affect a lot of people. I mean, but we want to encourage, I think, and not discourage some of the things. I'm not going to suggest changing it, but like the mobile unit fee, the out-of-county one, we're doing a service for other counties. That I agree, we should charge more. But for the in-county, again, the more we can do those things, the better off we're going to be, because we're going to collect more hazardous material. So I'm not recommending a change in that. And then the construction site permit, again, we want to encourage development. We want to encourage, and again, I'm not going to suggest necessarily changing them, but the construction site permit, the construction site permit, solar farm fees, solar farms, there's certain activities that take a lot more staff time than others. I mean, if you do a site permit, you build a house or something or whatever, well, that's a lot less involved than if you do a wind farm or a solar farm or something. So I'm just curious why those are pretty much similar. Mark?
Mr. Chair, Commissioners, just to clarify one point, back up before the solar comments. We do not charge a fee for in-county mobile unit collections, so there is no fee.
Oh, got it. Well, that's good.
Yeah.
You frame that one
It's
with the
just-
other one that Sarah had. Yep.
It's just the out-of-county events, the 6 out-of-county events that end up incurring those out-of-county mobile fees.
Yep.
Mr.
And I think that's very appropriate, obviously, because we're providing them a service. Commissioner Clark?
I hope it's okay. And to that point, I mean, the reason I thought that we don't charge is because it's coming out of other fees that are designated for this. Those are not levy fees. Or philosophically, some things, the question is, should all taxpayers pay for, or should the person who is going to get the benefit be paying for at least some of the staff time, which is the direction that I have to admit I still support. I mean, I do think it's good to always kind of check those things. I appreciate you bringing that up. But I do think we need to keep in mind there are some things that only 1 or 2 people or entities are going to get benefit from, and everybody else is subsidizing whatever staff time is put in that isn't covered by what they're paying for directly.
So would you agree that like a solar development is more involved staff-wise than a construction site permit? And if you do, should we not be charging more for that? I remember the Geronimo Wind Project. I mean, we went through 2 years of public hearings and all that other stuff, and then at the end, the funding went away and they dropped it. And we got one wind farm in Stearns County, and it wasn't part of the Geronimo project. So we spent a lot of time going through this and vetting these things. It just seems to me that the permit's low. Angie?
Mr. Chair, we do charge $2,500 for a solar farm, and for other construction site permits, we charge between $5,000 and $1,000. So we do charge more for a solar farm. In terms of a solar array, maybe that someone has in their backyard, or roof-mounted solar, that is the same price as someone building a shed, and it is no more work for the solar accessory, as we say. Wind farms, all of the Geronimo and all the things that we went through 15, 20 years ago, we didn't get a penny for any of that because it was a state permitted system. And so there's really no way to recapture some of that. That was proactive work that the county did on a policy level to identify what we wanted to see for green energy in the county. But we are collecting more for solar farms.
Boy, that had to be substantial. I guess I didn't know that we didn't get anything, because that went on for 2 years.
Correct.
I mean, I don't think there was a planning commission meeting that wasn't, at least an hour or more conversation. Wow. So that's good to know about the solar, that it is more. And then certainly we don't want to discourage the homeowner unit ones, so that's good to hear that too. The appeal on the construction site permit area, the appeal application going from $700 to $1,200, and the variance application fee from $700 to $1,200. That just concerns me a little bit, because we don't want to, it only would have affected 20 people, but still, we don't want to discourage people saying, wait a minute, I think I'm getting a raw deal here, and I'd like to have a second opinion. That's my gut reaction. It seems like a huge increase, and I'm sure there's a justification for that.
Mr. Chair, the reason I took a look at these was, if you look at the column next to percent change, which is average cost of service, you're going to see in those areas that those costs for services, appeal, variance, variance in shoreland after the fact, all of those things cost us a lot of dollars as a county, and the benefit is generally to the individual. And the cost recovery was one of those areas I felt was disproportionate. So I thought this made sense to add additional cost, because if it's $5,000 for an appeal and we're only getting a small fraction of that, it seemed that the county taxpayer as a whole was paying more for that, essentially is being, subsidizing that cost. And it seemed like a better way to go about this, since it's individual benefit. So that was my justification for that. If you as a board have a different thought process or want to make that a different number, that's certainly up to you, but that was my thought, is changing how we subsidize that process.
I think it helps me with the rationale, and not that I didn't think you didn't have one, but that certainly answers why the difference there.
Mr. Chair, the other thing I would add to that too is the appeals, while they're very few, I mean, we put a lot of time into them before we even tell someone they need to appeal. If it's a zoning issue, it's Shelley and I and at least 2 or 3 of my staff, and we go through everything to make sure that they're not getting a raw deal, as you said, right? So we don't just hand those out very freely. It's very limited where someone would choose to appeal administrative decision.
And I think there was 20 that you identified that did. The vacation home short-term rentals, Commissioner Notch brought that up the last session. I think that's low, because it's settled down, but they've certainly caused a lot of issues. And I would assume we have to inspect them once a year if we have to react to any calls. There's one on Watab that's going on now that's an illegal thing. Well, that takes time. I just think, and again, I'm not going to propose, the only things I'm going to focus on changing are the food and license ones, but just a thought, do we want to increase that? Because again, activities that, if you do a construction site permit, you get the permit, you build the house, no problems, okay, that's one thing. But when you start doing these kinds of activities, and it involves many times different township ordinances, it involves the sheriff's department going out, doing noise parking issues, or what, it's more involved. I'm just thinking that could be and should be higher.
Mr. Chair, we did do an increase in those areas after the last conversation. So that would be on page 4, the last page, 14 of 14. And you can see we went up to interim use as $2,000 for their first renewal. And then if they don't have a violation and we have that process, we went to $1,500, which before was $600 and $500, and we went to $2,000 and $1,500.
But what about the provisional permits? They only went up 100.
Well,
One stayed the same, one went up 100.
100% change, we went from 400 to 800.
I'm not seeing that, I guess.
That
Okay,
was-
so you did increase it?
We did.
Okay.
Mr. Chair, also just keep in mind that the fees you're discussing here, these short-term rentals also pay an annual lodging license. So there is an annual cost. This is just to get them up and running.
And what's that cost?
Well,
Remind me. And I assume that covers the inspection and,
that's the annual health inspection, yes.
Oh.
Where's our lodging?
Is that the 250?
again, we don't want to discourage it per se, but we certainly don't, it's taking more work, in my opinion.
Well, and typically, once we have it up and running, it becomes less work, but we do have that annual inspection to make sure that it stays in compliance and it meets all the health code requirements.
Mr. Chair, that fee is currently $300, proposed to go to $360 for the lodging license.
And then before I propose or recommend some adjustments on the feedlot construction site permit, just so I understand that, it's 115, is gonna stay at 115, and then it's plus $1 per animal unit. So just so I understand that, so if there's 500 animal units, it would be the 115 plus 500.
Yes,
Got it. I just wanted to understand that.
that's correct.
So in the food and license area, that's where I'm going to suggest that we leave it the way it is. Number one, it's minimum, it's $70. But as I said, a lot of comments were made and some adjustments were made, and I guess I didn't catch this one, and if you did, I'm missing it, I'm sorry, but the two, the first two, the 1 to 3, and I can't remember what the other one is, 3 to whatever, $70, it's certainly $80 for the second tier, but there's 142 and 168. You know, as I said in the work session, these are the lifeblood of a lot of rural towns. If you wouldn't have a bar, restaurant in some of these small towns, I mean, that's your Meals on Wheels for a lot of people. And certainly a high-end restaurant in St. Cloud has a lot different resources than a small town bar in a rural town. So I would, I'm going to suggest that we leave it at $350 instead of raising it to $420, and leave it at $410 instead of raising it to $490 for the first two tiers.
Okay, so that would be line item number 3 and line item number 4.
Correct.
Stay at the current fee as your proposal.
That would be my suggestion, and I suppose, should I make that in a motion, or how do you want to, or should we just have consensus? Commissioner Notch?
Yeah, well, I thought about that because you had mentioned that previously, but the way I kind of look at it is if you take that $420, an annual fee, if they serve, just say 2,000 meals in a year, it's 21 cents a meal. I mean, there's a cost associated, with doing those kitchen I don't know what you call them.
Yep. Annual inspections.
Inspections, and I mean, whether it's a 1 to 4 or a 40 employee, to me, it's the same procedure you guys have to go through. And there's 142 that have 1 to 4 employees. I think there should be some increase. I mean, yeah, they do serve a purpose, but in the long run, I think, it's a minimal ask to try and cover those costs.
It is, it's minimum, and I talked to Randy, he said we'll not have any budget impact, whatsoever. Part of this is, it's a perceptual thing. Are we working with small establishments, or every time they turn around, again, going back to the HRA levy, 50,000, airport, $1 million, it just adds up and up. It's not that specific area, and I appreciate your comments, but I disagree. I think we need to show the smaller facilities that, yep, we do appreciate what you're doing, and more of these places are closing down. And again, you close a restaurant bar in a small town, and I'm telling you, when I say it's Meals on Wheels, it's Meals on Wheels. I mean, there's older people that are in those, and it's 21 cents. It might not mean like a lot, but to that operator, it may mean, again, it's a perception, it's a signal. Mark?
Mr. Chair, Commissioners, I just, one point of clarification. When you look at the fee schedule and you see the breakdown based on 1 to 4 employees, 5 to 18, 19 to 28, 29 to 35, and they're for food service licenses. Keep in mind that food service license is for a full food establishment, is what we call it. They're serving the full gamut of a menu, okay? Could be, could be a pizza and pop, it could be a steak dinner and everything. It could be the Thanksgiving meal, right? They have the ability to do that. The breakdown on the employees in our fee schedule, that's where that sliding scale comes in on the size of that type of business. As Commissioner Notch pointed out, when staff walk into that, regardless if there's 1 to 4 or the larger ones, the type of inspection we're doing is the same. It's the length of time it takes us to do that in that establishment because they are serving full food. With that, your concerns about the smaller mom and bar restaurants in small towns, keep in mind they may be licensed differently. They may be under a limited food license with a beverage add-on, which then should be less than the the proposed 420. So a limited food license is at $295 proposed.
And that's going up $50.
No, it's at $245 now. It's going up $295. So that's going up $50 or $50, correct? Yes. Yep. So there are different licensing categories for the different types of establishments. So I just wanted to make that clear.
So I guess, again, I'd rather not vote against all the fees, but if we don't lower that, I'm going to, because I feel strongly enough about it. But that's just my comment. So I think we can make a minor adjustment. It's not going to affect the budget, and I think it signals what we're doing. So, anybody else have?
Well,
Other than that, I don't think I have. Nope, that would be all that I would recommend. And
could I propose we split the difference and do half of it?
do we have an auctioneer in the audience? We could probably start.
Well, I'm just saying, I mean,
If we're
Be
going to
nice to
set this,
recapture.
if it's a minimum amount, Commissioner Notch, then I don't know why we'd have to split it, but I guess if we're trying to reach a consensus, then I haven't heard from Commissioner Clark or Persky, but it's a minimum amount, but if we have to split it, we certainly could. But I think the smaller operators would see a signal that we didn't increase it stronger than saying, well, we didn't kick you as hard. We increased it, but not as much. Commissioner Clark.
Well, I certainly had shared your question and concern, but doing the math, I actually think that what staff proposed was reasonable. I had thought about looking at doing something different if people were interested in the 1 to 4, because again, it costs, I mean, this is costing staff the same amount of money, you know, it's not really about anything else. But, so I would be more inclined to do something with that, but if, and we have lots of split votes, so I get that, but I also don't have a problem with perhaps splitting the difference, or maybe with that lowest category, leaving it the way it is.
Okay, Commissioner Notch?
yeah, just quite, so these food service license inspection, that's a state requirement?
Yes. Mr. Chair, we are a delegated county, so we have taken on that role from the state. If we choose not to be a delegated county, these would all go back to the state, and the interactions with the community that we serve in food and beverage would be required to go through the state inspectors and go through that process. We purposefully, intentionally try to build rapport with our constituent base here because they have a lot of questions. We do a lot of education. We try to be very hands-on, helping them up through the process. So I think they are better served as we are a delegated county. And I know that that question certainly can be asked and we can review, but it is a good opportunity for us.
Commissioner Clark?
Mr. Chair, we did look at what it would cost people at our August 12th meeting if
Yeah.
the state did it, and it would not only be less service, but it would, generally speaking, cost them more.
Probably the same, if not more, depending on the type of service and
Right.
how they regulate it, yes, but definitely less in our level of service, for sure.
Right.
And it is a delegated activity, and we did talk about that. I think they are better served by the county. Like you said, they have the rapport with the staff. A lot of these inspectors, we were grade A farmers, and the milk inspector came once a year. He was in the barn maybe 5 minutes. Dad ran a pretty tight operation. He knew the inspector didn't have to look for things. Compared to the next, we always got 100%. That was Dad's badge of honor. We never had any violations when the milk inspector, and you've got the small town operators, you're not having issues with them. I mean, overall, but on the same token, nobody's died from food poisoning, so that's a
Well-
good thing too, at least not that we know of.
To the credit of our staff.
Yeah, and that
And
is.
the operators.
The operators and our staff work really well together. We're greatly appreciative that they are willing to call us. When something changes or they don't know, they call staff and ask, hey, how do we do this? Or we're going to change a process. That's the kind of rapport we have and we want to continue to have because it helps keep our food areas safe.
So Commissioner Notch, is that your final offer? Or Commissioner Persky, he's going to weigh in, okay?
I guess I'm a bit empathetic towards this small-town operator. Somebody that's doing lunch for 24 people opposes somebody with a large establishment doing 200 people at lunch. There's a benefit to have that place in the rural areas, whether it be, folks that are doing construction locally and they need a place to come and have lunch. You've got hunters that are going to be out this fall. You've got you know, people just traveling through, you've got the whole issue of rural tourism and a place maybe to gather lunch. So again, I would be sympathetic, empathetic towards the small town operators with just a handful of employees.
Okay, I'll agree with you.
I don't know the last time that we added one, but the St. Nicholas, Mike's, I can't remember what he called it now, was the first one that we've added for as long as I can remember. And again, if you think that doesn't make a difference, go talk to the people in St. Nicholas, you know, a small town. Now there's going to be an opportunity to have some alcohol and minimum food. You know, that makes a heck of a difference, but, so,
Mr. Chair?
yes.
Okay, I can concur with you guys on that, but then I would go to, so for instance, a special event food license, you know, it's going from 75 to 90. It's 112 of those. If you look sometimes at what those events are, which I'm part of one of them, you know, it's a one-time limited thing where you only make X so many dollars on a one-time deal. Well, you know, if we want to slice and dice pies, you know, I'd say, well, maybe we should keep that one at 75, but I'm not going to propose that. But
Well,
there's so many fees in here where
Right.
we could slice and dice them, you know.
I think you should propose it, Commissioner. I mean, your barbecue has been going on for what, 50 years?
Plus.
And if you don't think that makes a difference, and these community events that have these events, you know, that have been going on for 50 years, so $15 isn't a lot, but it sends a signal.
Yeah.
And what do you get, 1,000 people?
1,000, 1,300.
I mean, people, this affects, and again, it's a perception. It's maybe not a lot of dollars, but it's a perception. So if you want to add that on, you certainly, it's your idea, you should or can.
Mr. Chair,
Commissioner Clark.
I do think it's worth, again, reinforcing that if you're doing limited, it is not the price that we were seeing, so people just need to know that, and that is not solely, yeah, I mean, it's really important to have those things in those places. We have establishments that are 1 to 4 people in lots of communities, so just remember, it's not one size of a community, it's what their enterprise is, including mobile, right? I mean, isn't that part of this? So anyways, I think if Commissioner Lensmeyer was still here, he'd say the horse is dead, so go ahead and make the proposal, let's vote on, although I don't know, did you close the public hearing?
I
Yes.
did.
Okay, good.
Yep.
I just want to make sure.
I think the food trucks are still, I haven't said anything about them, and I think, again, that's a new activity, takes a little bit more, that takes more work, I think, so I'm not proposing that. So I'll make a motion to help close this then, to approve proposed changes to the 2026 county official fee schedule relating to notary fees, amendments of marriage certificates, which, by the way,
Say the whole thing, yeah, that's fine.
I should say it?
No, I think
Oh.
you can say the proposed fee schedule that we have with additional changes. You
Got
can
it,
any-
okay. So what Brandy said, and then I would propose that we leave the fees for items 3, 4, 8, 9, 11, 12, and 13. 3, 4, 8, 9, 12, and 13, that we leave those fees as they are current. That's my motion.
11 doesn't have a fee.
No,
Yours-
12 and 13.
I'm
Oh,
sorry,
12
yeah,
and
12 and
13.
13.
Okay.
So 3, 4, 8, 9, 12, 13, as current.
I'll second it with a question. Is there a calculation on how much dollar change that is?
We can make that calculation.
Well,
Sarah and Randy will do it.
Yeah,
Well,
it's not gonna
I
be,
would
My
just
human
say,
calculator's behind me, but
we have, as Sarah mentioned, the estimated additional revenue is about 275. We have in the budget 225.
oh,
So some adjustments isn't gonna hit
Okay.
our proposed budget, so.
okay, I'm okay with that.
We're talking probably thousands of dollars.
Right, I don't think it's huge, no.
Yep. Well, I'm
Okay,
okay.
motion's been made by me, seconded by Commissioner Notch. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor of that motion, say aye.
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 Opposed, same sign. Motion passes. Okay?
thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Chair, well, there's something, didn't the HRA used to give us their budget too? The dollar breakdowns?
Oh, no.
Didn't they used to do that? Didn't the HRA used to give us their budget for the dollar?
Yeah, at some
You didn't
point
do
they
that
would
this-
give us that detail, and certainly a good ask, I think.
Yeah, I should have asked them, because normally I
Well,
think
we can, Mike missed that, but Steve was wondering if we never got the HRA budget.
They used to give us that recap financial budget sheet.
Like a line item budget.
Yeah.
Maybe
Yep.
ask for that. And
Yeah, no problem.
And there was something else I was gonna tell Shelley now before I forget, and I can't remember. I'll email you. Karen, it's good to see you for the last time, maybe? Karen knows the small towns. She thought of goat ropers a few times, didn't you, during that conversation, probably? And
Well,
farming.
it's not goat ropers
Yeah, it's
anymore.
trappers.
Yeah, travelers. Yeah, it'll always be goat ropers to me. Welcome. Who wants to
Thank you.
preface this, Mike, or can Karen jump right in?
I think Karen can jump right
Okay.
in here,
All
here
right.
for our annual budget review, so.
Yeah, thank you. Good morning. I'm Karen Ponsack, Executive Director for Great River Regional Library.
And I'm Amy Anderson, the Associate Director of Accounting for the Great River Regional Library.
And we are here to do our annual budget presentation, so thanks for your time today to talk about how the Great River budget is put together. Great River is a 6-county system with locations in 33 communities. 32 of them are libraries. One of the things that forms the region is our joint powers agreement, which has a process to develop the budget. We have a finance committee that includes Commissioner Clark, who is our representative from the county board here. We also have commissioners from the other 5 counties, and our chair is Jane Dietz, who also serves on the finance committee. That finance committee forms the budget and then brings it to the full board for proposal, and it is based on a formula that is 3 parts. One part is net tax capacity, one part is borrowers, and one part is population. So even if the budget is flat, the county portions fluctuate from one year to the next. One of the things I like to point out about Stearns County is you have a third of the libraries in the system. We have 32 libraries and the locker system in Sartell. Of the libraries, you can see most of them are in our small towns, but it also includes St. Cloud, which is the largest library in the system and one of the largest in the state. So we're very fortunate to have such a strong system. One of the challenges with this year's budget was all the uncertainty going into forming the budget. And one of the things we've really focused on at the board level is making sure to keep, staff treated well, at the same time services delivered to patrons, and prepare for any uncertainties that might come with federal dollars. While Great River doesn't receive a lot of federal dollars directly, changes to interlibrary loan could happen as soon as next July if things don't change at the federal level, and our patrons have come to expect that as a service. And Amy can talk to you more about the nuts and bolts of the budget, but if you have questions at the end, we can certainly answer those as well.
So this year, the Great River Board adopted its 2026 budget at their July 15th meeting. Stearns County will contribute $2,321,618 in 2026. This is an increase of $61,564, or 2.72%. This line graph is an illustration of the county contributions to our revenue budget since 2016. Stearns County is represented by the purple line. All signatories in our joint powers agreement are experiencing an increased contribution share in 2026 as the library system moves through a reserves use spending and recovery plan. The library system's overall budget for 2026 is $10.57 million, an increase of 0.42% from 2025. In 2026, the budget includes just under $140,000 of reserves and $350,000 of operating surplus rollover from our 2024 budget, and this totals just under $490,000. Last year, this combined total was $623,000. So this demonstrates how the spending and recovery plan is reducing the amount of reserves or one-time money used within our revenue budget. The current recovery plan will end with our 2029 annual budget. This pie chart breaks down the library system's 2026 revenue budget by funding source. Signatory contributions will make up 72.27% of next year's budget. This budget continues to support the Wi-Fi to Go program, which are hotspots available for patrons to check out for a 1 or 3 week time period, and our popular summer and winter reading challenges, which had over 16,000 participants last year. The organization's expense categories are illustrated here. Our budget process begins by estimating expenses to maintain current services at the same or status quo level. This means we work diligently to find new cost savings on a continuing basis. And to illustrate the efficiencies of having streamlined operations across our library system, per capita spending for library services is broken down on this slide. At the state level, revenues per capita spent for public library services is $48.59. Within Great River, that spending decreases to $20.43. And within Stearns County, per capita spending drops again to $14.42. This also demonstrates the commitment of our Great River Board and staff to providing high-quality library access in the most cost-effective manner possible. We'd like to thank our board members, including Commissioner Clark, for their high levels of dedication and commitment to learning about our library system and its operations. And we also want to thank Stearns County for recognizing that library services are a core government function available for all county residents. We appreciate your continued support of our system and its services, and we're happy to answer any questions that you have.
Okay, thank you. Any questions?
A comment real quick, if that's okay.
Commissioner Clark has a comment, no question?
Yeah, well.
If she asks a
Mostly
question, I'll
'cause-
cut you off, because I'm kidding.
No. Well, I was
I'm
going to
kidding.
say, because I already know the answer to the question.
Okay.
You are going to be missed. You've done a fabulous job. Mr. Bertram recognized that at the beginning, and he obviously served on the board for a long time. So thank you for all your work, and certainly for all the staff and the volunteers. We've got an amazing system, and in spite of the challenges right now with the uncertainty about funding, overall financially, the system's in good shape.
Thank you.
How many years was it, Karen, as a director?
As director, depends if you count the interim year. It's 10 years officially as director, 11 if you count interim.
Okay,
So,
and then
yeah.
with the system?
With the system, 26.
Okay,
Yeah, my oldest son was 1.5 years when I started, and my oldest grandson is 2, so it's time. When I think back to when I was appointed director, I think you were all in very different places, other than, I think Commissioner Notch was just elected to this county board, and Jeff was just appointed, and both of you were Don Audie's replacement at that moment in time. So, and Commissioner Persky was mayor of Sartell, and we were talking about what library services would look like back then. And Commissioner Clark was just a very strong patron. So in terms of where we were 10 years ago, it's really interesting to see how much has changed.
and it was the oddest board I was ever appointed to. Commissioner Audie couldn't attend the evening meetings, and that's when he asked me if I'd be interested in it. And the biggest shock in people's, when I told them I was on the library board, they didn't picture me on a library board, and I did it because of Commissioner Audie, but there was no director. I never met the director, the previous director. She just didn't show up for like 6 months, and it was a long deal. So to get Karen, and I openly shared with Karen, my concern with her as becoming director was, you're being an equal to all these other assistant directors. Will you be able to hold them accountable or do, well, pretty quickly you had to show that, and you have. You certainly led. There was no favoritism. You did your job. So, yep, kudos and good luck in your new venture.
Thank you.
So no other question? Or
I just have to make a comment as
Okay.
well. Karen, thank you very much. Your leadership has been tremendous. The service provided has been outstanding, and also the foresight to move things forwards, and the way you handled some of our challenges. So thank you very much.
Yeah, it's been an honor to serve. Thank you.
Keep in touch. There's no break on the agenda, but my bladder's telling me there needs to be a break. So we're going to take a 5-minute break, and we'll be right back. At least I will.
Thanks.
we have brought that proposed levy down. We were at 5.6% at your last meeting, and you'll see here today that we'll show you that where we are today is 5.2% increase in the overall levy, which is actually a decrease in the tax rate. The focus of most of the discussion at your last meeting was on personnel, and frankly, as we told you, we weren't quite complete with our analysis of where we're gonna go in some of these areas. So today's focus is gonna be on those positions that we focused on mostly on the last meeting. And to do that, Jill's gonna run you through the changes that we've made since then. And then we were also asked about kind of what overall changes did we make since the beginning, and Sarah's gonna run through that as well. And then Randy and I will bring it together for you.
And to that point, Mike, people view this process, how they're not sure exactly how this works. It started out over 12, I think, didn't it? And I mean, when you do all your stuff, and again, what you do, you have a budget committee, maybe it wouldn't hurt for you just real quickly to explain how that works. The people are involved with that, meeting with all the department directors, all the requests, everything else. Can you just real quickly recap
Absolutely.
that? There is a process.
There certainly is, and you're looking at what we call the budget committee. It's Jill Surmeyer, our assistant county administrator, Sarah Uch, our finance director, and Randy, our auditor-treasurer, and myself. And we start this process way back in April by creating the templates for the departments to submit their budget requests. We have a couple of meetings and talk about those requests before they come in. They come in, they get pulled together, and then we review those proposed budgets with each department director and anybody else that they bring in, because obviously it's a lot more people than department directors putting these together. So this group meets individually with those departments so that we fully understand their request, and then we as a committee begin to make changes as we see fit to bring it all together. Of course, we're trying to take the overall view as you are, rather than the department by department. And so that takes actually quite a while before it even gets to the board, and then we begin the discussions with the board. This is the third or fourth meeting that we've talked about the budget with the board.
And then there's a lot of individual questions, one-on-one questions that board members have with you and Randy to continue to navigate that budget. And then we have to deal with the realities of $1 million cut on the federal level, $1 million cut in the state level. Things certainly have become more volatile, so that process certainly works itself through. And again, it started at over 12%, if I remember right, and now we're to 5.2%. I was telling Commissioner Notch, I appreciated his column last week. He said his preference is 1% to 2%, so you're going in the right direction to get to Steve's, and I'm all behind Steve. So Steve said 1% to 2%, so keep going south, I guess it's the direction. So if you want a copy of the column, I can send it to you. So who's gonna start, Jill?
Jill.
Okay.
Mr. Chair, members of the board. So this chart will look familiar to you. It's a chart that we presented last meeting when we talked about this. I highlighted two of the positions in that sort of reddish brown up there, and those are ones that have changed since we last met. So the fraud investigator was originally at a 0.5, and we've moved that to a 1.0, so a full-time position. So that individual, that position, will be doing half-time on the fraud investigation that's funded by the state fraud grant. And then the other half of the time, they'll be doing detective investigation work, looking at some of our cold cases, and other work that is needed by the sheriff's office. The other position that changed there is the parks maintenance worker. So initially, we had planned to request funds from the Regional Rail Authority to pay for part of that position because of the additional work that our team at Stearns does in the administration of trails and the maintenance on trails. But we decided to hold off on having that conversation. And so because we won't be using external funds for that, and it will be all levy, we decided to have that position start July 1. So it's a smaller levy impact than if we had started on January 1. So those are the two main changes to the current positions. The other change is that we did eliminate one of the requests, and that's for the household hazardous waste operations position. And Mark and Shelley will be joining us in a minute, and so if you have questions about that, they can answer it. But moving on to...
Jill,
Yes.
Mr. Chair.
Commissioner Persky?
Yeah, back on that parks position then the following year, would that be around $80,000?
Yes, sir.
Yes.
Okay, so, but that increase will be shown as an added increase, or will it just be in there?
You mean when you view the budget again?
Yeah, next
Well,
year when we see the budget, will
yeah.
we see the additional half position, or
Yeah.
will we not see that?
We can definitely show
Okay.
that, because it would be,
would-
and it does have those tails. The other thing I think that we will do is we'll have another conversation about whether or not Railroad Authority should or could help fund some of the parks positions too.
So I'm going to go over a few of the more specifics on each of these positions. So for the public safety personnel requests, just a side-by-side to show you the costs of adding those 3 full-time positions and how we're offsetting it with a mix of different funding sources. Note that the public safety aid will be about half that for 2027. So this year there will be 60,000 used out of public safety aid, but in 2027 it will be 30,000, and then it will be no use of public safety aid and funding for one of the deputy positions. For that parks maintenance position, the last board meeting we did spend some time discussing, the reasons for adding these specific personnel. So just wanted to highlight the reasons for this request. Since we last added a full-time maintenance person, that was in 2005, we've added 470 new acres in parkland. Actually more than that was just in the last 5 years. But we've also expanded a lot of amenities. So facilities that need to have maintenance and care done, the restrooms, picnic shelters, along with just trail maintenance and parkland maintenance. And we've seen an increase in the number of visitors that are coming to our parks, and also an increase in parking permit sales. And so there is some revenue coming into our park system to help offset the addition of expenses. And as noted earlier, we'll have a conversation with the Regional Rail Authority to see if there is an openness to having them contribute to the costs that the county incurs for the administration and maintenance of trail systems. The next couple slides pertain to the sanitarian request. I'm going to have Shelley and Mark come up and provide just a little background on why this request was made and how the request is funded.
Good morning, Mr. Chair, members of the board. Shelley Benson, Environmental Services Director. Mark Lateral is also with me, who is the supervisor over the food and beverage program. Really, we're looking at managing the food and beverage program a little bit differently. We want to expand our ability to reroute our folks. Currently, we have 3 routes, and with the amount of change we've seen in Waite Park specifically and the amount of demands in that area, we'd like to divide that up a little bit differently. So this will, adding a position, it will help us look at rerouting to better serve Waite Park and the challenges that we have in all the different food and beverage areas. I'll let Mark go through some of that with you.
Mr. Chair, Commissioners, Mark Lateral, Environmental Services. As you can see on the screen, our sanitarians do a number of activities. First, you can see that the number of licenses that we issue annually for these health licenses have been steadily increasing. And we just continue to project an increase in those licensings. The complexity of the food establishments, as I mentioned earlier, as we talked about fees, the HACCPs, that's just one specialty, special processes, but that covers a lot of different specialty things that we're finding our establishments wanting to do, more complex food prep. Our sanitarians are also responsible for the plan reviews and then business remodel consults, like on our short-term rentals. They do the HACCP evaluations. They also take part in the complaint investigations with our lodging, rental, pools, or any of the establishments. We also deal with foodborne illness outbreaks. The state of Minnesota doesn't do those. We do those locally on their behalf. So the amount of work we're asking our 3 sanitarians to do justifies the need of the 4th sanitarian ask. So things we'd like to do, we would like to be able to, as Shelley said, increase more education efforts. Staff has started putting together 2 opportunities in the beginning of the year, beginning of the summer, for our special event food license folks. They have to do annual training, health training that we have put together. Normally it's go out online, do it, and then turn in your applications and proof that you've done it. We've started in-person classes, which now have been well attended. So they get the training done out of the way, and they also get their app in the door that evening when we hold those. So that's one thing we've started and we want to continue to do. We'd also like to be able to partner in with the city of St. Cloud, and when we do mobile food unit inspections, a one-stop shop. Now these units cross multiple jurisdiction lines, so rather than having to be inspected multiple times, we could hold an event in the spring cooperating with them and have their inspectors, our inspectors, walk through it, and they could be done at once and online. But these are the things that'll take away from the other time of doing the other inspection work. So,
Commissioner Persky.
Yeah, Mark, thanks. Say, the proliferation of those food trucks, how does that work between counties? I mean, we've got obviously Benton County, and we've got the Benton County Fair. You've got obviously trucks that run over there, and then you've got Stearns County Fair. You've got all these festivals and things that, if you're certified in one county, can you cross county lines, or do they stop you at the border?
Mr. Chair, Commissioner Persky, licenses are not reciprocal. It would be fabulous if the state of Minnesota would oversee food trucks and make it a universal state license, and there has been push in the program and within the MIHA establishment or the local groups to make that happen. That's for some reason it's a real struggle to make that happen with the Minnesota Department of Health. Okay. But to answer your question, if someone is serving food at the Benton County Fair, they're probably licensed under an MDH license, and then they come across and operate in St. Cloud proper, they're probably licensed by, well, they would be licensed by City of St. Cloud, and when they go over to Waite Park or further west, they're licensed by us.
Okay. Mr. Chair, Mark, while we're on that, what about, we've got the food trucks, but what about simple vendors that are doing cotton candy or kettle corn? Do they have to be licensed as well, if one item?
There's lines between whether it comes from the Minnesota Department of Health or our licensing, since we're an extension of MDH, or Department of Ag. It depends on the food product they're making, how they're making it, where they're making it, that kinds of things.
I think there should be an exemption for cotton candy. I don't think they should have.
There's also cottage food licensing and different ways of.
Maybe cotton candy and chocolate.
Okay.
So different licensing for different types of food products, how those products are made, who's making them. There's lots related to food. Our inspectors, our sanitarians answer a lot of those questions. A lot of people call with those kinds of questions, and that's one of the things that's really important, is being able to answer those questions. And then if it's not us, direct them to the right people, because sometimes it's Department of Ag, sometimes it's another agency. So we have to be aware of what we do and what other people do, and we try to get them to the right people.
Right. Mr. Chair, Commissioners, the other main focus of adding an FTE to our sanitarian is to bring about a more streamlined and efficient way of doing our annual licensing. In the past, we've had administrative staff helping us, which has worked, but it's really not in their protocol to do this. Bringing someone that has the full knowledge of a sanitarian into the process will help us get through this process easier and quicker. We're going to begin that process here in the next month, probably, and getting licenses, renewal apps sent out to our establishments, and then we'll be busy with that through the end of the year. So.
Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And note that the funding for this position would come out of the fee increase, so it wouldn't be a new addition to the levy. So in our last meeting, Mr. Chair, you requested a list of the positions that have been eliminated from the county roster. So in this budget process, we've eliminated the following vacant positions. So these positions didn't have a current incumbent. Included the county surveyor, which has been vacant since July 2023 because those the roles and responsibilities have been absorbed by a different position in the county. The administration's public service representative, and then those 3 part-time positions that are related to the sheriff's office that are being used to offset the costs of the new deputy and the new, or the 2 new deputies. And then the final item there is IT interns, and that was a realization that those intern costs are covered in a different part of the IT budget. And so we were able to eliminate those 2 interns in the actual roster for our positions. So with that, I'll turn it over to Sarah to do just a recap of the revenue changes and expenditure changes.
All right, good afternoon. On the screen here is some cuts or reductions, if you will, or changes to the budget that have occurred since the beginning of our journey, when it was a 14.2% levy increase the first time you saw it. And so I don't want to go through each of these, but I wanted to highlight a couple that are potential talking points or areas of education. So under the revenue changes, we talked this morning at the public hearing about revenue part of the budget, which then has a reduction in the levy from the original amount that the board saw. The budget committee made a decision to eliminate a $1.7 million levy for capital projects that we have previously had. On the levy, we removed that from the levy in hopes of trying to keep that levy percentage lower than the 14.2 we started out at. The moving of one highway project from the levy to fund balance, when it was presented to the budget committee, the highway construction project had one project, it was going up about $330,000 from 2025 funding for highway to 2026 for highway construction. And so we looked at their fund balance levels and their reserves and felt confident that they have a buildup of reserves there. And so we took one of their projects so that it can still be done and moved it from funded by the current levy to funded by fund balance, which then reduces your current rate. And then that additional state and federal grants, that's not additional grants we're getting, that's new information that we get when we start the budget. Human Services specifically, but all departments, they learn about their funding levels from the state in these 2-3 month timeframes, and so they start refining their budget. Therefore, we had an increase in grant revenue from your original budget. On the expense side, our total cuts to expenses from what the budget was in the request phase till today is about $3.2 million that we took out of expenses. About $900,000 of that were cuts to departmental requests. So those are cuts to their supplies, their training, their professional services, and their capital items that they originally came to us with. Outside agency requests were cut about $59,000 from what they came in and requested to the final proposal. And then the amount that you see in there for that IT project funding, that $433,000, that was just merely a change in funding source using the project fund, or sometimes they have duplication where we'll just pick a department, let's say Auditor-Treasurer's office puts an IT item in and IT puts it in too. So then we find that it's a duplication and we're able to remove that without removing the project itself. And that is what I have on that slide.
So yeah, and then the next slide shows the total and shows the 5.2% increase in the levy. The $1 million that we've left in contingency is included in that general fund there. Just as a reminder, that number, that 10% is a little high, and then of course some of the additions, particularly in public safety, are included in there too. But that's where the $1 million contingency is. So this results in a tax rate that will decrease by about 0.5%, if you can go to the next slide. And there's the history again. You saw that last meeting. Since 2017, the tax rate has predominantly been dropping. I don't know that there was a year in there that that the rate actually, and maybe last year it increased just a very slight amount. But basically, you can see the trend line there in the tax rate. So with the 5.2% increase in the levy, this is showing you that the tax capacity is, of course, greater than that. And so if there's no change in evaluation, and you've seen these tables before, of course, you would see a slight decrease, 0.5% in tax. But the graphic on the right is more likely what people will see because with the increases in those various property types in their valuation, the typical increase in valuation. And we just had this, the MICA administrators met on Friday, and one of the things they do is do a quick round the table to see where everybody is with their budgets. They're all in the same place we are, of course. They need to adopt their preliminary levies this month. And so you can see there where the MICA County levies are today in their process. I think they're likely all to be similar to us. They are pretty close to where they're pretty close to where they're going to be in the end. But certainly these, you could see some changes here, and you can see that Stearns County would actually be in the lowest increase of all of those counties. So I thought that was pertinent information you might want to see. So again, a little bit of an increase in the budgeted expenditures. Of course, remember that looks pretty small because of the $9 million we had in there for Town Line Road in the current budget. But again, levy increase of 5.2, the tax capacity increasing about 0.5% more than that, which results in a lowering of the tax rate. And that's what we have for you today on the budget.
And part of the confusion, I think, to the public is the valuation of your property goes up. And so the rate may be what it is, but your taxes will go up because the valuation of your property kind of. And then the other thing is the other entities, whether it be city, township, school board, referendums, so of course what people do is they look at the bottom line of what the taxes are. And in a few months, Randy's going to want us to write another check to the county. So when they do that, that's the number they see. And oftentimes they don't understand that it's the city, township, school district, operational levies, and then of course the watershed levy and all these other levies. Which that airport levy, I brought this up several times. So if that does happen for next year, that is going to be on the tax statement, right?
Yeah, it'll be a separate line.
Identified.
Yes.
Yep. Okay. Okay. Any? The only thing is several of us have had conversations on the floater for extension, and Steve evidently talked to you, and I talked to Randy, and Steve talked to Randy, and everybody's talking to everybody. But obviously that is a concern, and the way it sounds, we're going to be able to figure that out.
I think we'll figure that
Up. So
You can see in this budget, one of the reductions was in the floaters. Our plan to administer that is to make sure that we have somebody at our front desks, two front desks in the two buildings at all times, which will probably reduce the amount of, it will reduce the amount of time that we can spend in those other departments. But I mean, it's another, I just say that overall, but we'll continue to have the discussion about extension. And of course that discussion started because we're just trying to do things as efficiently and effectively as possible, but we've heard the concerns and we'll work through it.
and those front desk people are doing work while they're at the front desk.
As much as we can get them to do at that front desk, yes.
Yep. Okay. Any questions or input? Not?
Just thanks for all the work.
Yeah.
I mean, it's, just,
Absolutely.
everybody looking through, combing through their budgets, yeah.
It keeps, you're keeping it going in the right direction and just continuing now to work for Steve's goal of 1% to 2%, and we're gonna be in good shape. Commissioner Clark?
Yeah, I haven't read your column yet, but the tax rate did go down below 0%, so that might be about the best we're going to be able to do for a while. And just to note, a number of the MICA counties are already building into their 2026 budgets, some of what to anticipate with what we're going to be required to do by 2027. So appreciate all the work to try to keep this down, and the legislature still needs to make sure that they're paying for services out of other funds besides property taxes when they're looking at making changes.
Okay.
Yep.
Commissioner Knott?
Yeah, I just had a quick comment. You know, it's kind of interesting when you look at, you know, the change in valuation. You can have your permanent residents, you know, show if that's how it comes out. You know, residential homestead, just use the middle one at 296,000, goes up 6.75. You can sit there and have a recreational property and only go up 4.52%. And you need the housing more. I mean, yeah, recreation is great. People come in from different counties, spend money. But in reality, the residential person is still paying a lot. I think it's a different tax rate, right? The state has different tax rate for seasonal.
So why the increase is different is residential, as your value goes up, you lose that homestead exclusion.
Oh.
So it's not a great.
Whereas you don't have a homestead.
For
exemption.
seasonal rec, no, you don't. No, it's not a great formula. The trouble is changing it. It's very difficult.
Okay. Well, with that, then we're done with the budget, so we go into issues by commissioners. Commissioner Clark?
I'm going to go super quick because we've got people waiting for the Railroad Authority meeting that was supposed to start 45 minutes ago, but they know that we were doing important work. We obviously have the AMC policy meeting coming up this week, and just so that residents and others know, there's a lot of focus on really what needs to be changed at the state level and how we really start putting together how we can impact them, which is great, and it's really important. And because Director Punsek was here, there actually are a number of really well-qualified individuals that have applied for her position, and the interview process is going to be going on very soon. And that's it.
Okay. Commissioner Percy?
Yeah, I just want to also mention that to Terrell. So yeah, we've got some important things happening in Alex as far as establishing policy. And I will be missing then the Park Commission meeting. Ben's still here. I don't know what he's hanging around for, but or he just left. Well, look at him. He knew I was going to be talking about him.
He's over at the Railroad Authority meeting.
Yeah, there we go. Anyway, with that, they're also going to maybe be setting a date for a picnic for us yet. So hopefully we'll get a good day in weather that we'll get invited out to one of the parks and be able to see what the Park Commission is doing. Next week, Jody and I are going to be out in DC for Transportation Alliance. So if there are any extra things that maybe need to be said to certain people, let us know about that. And then another thing is, you know, we had the issue that we were talking about work from home and back to work, but really didn't take any action on that. And I think we've had time to digest that. I wonder, can we have that discussion and see if we're going to move forward with any type of policy? Mike, I'm just wondering, can we have that discussion maybe next meeting as far as where we're going to actually maybe go or do anything with that?
Yeah, if the board wants to do that, that's fine. I don't necessarily have any recommended changes, but certainly I'm all ears if the board wants to do something.
I don't know where the other board members are.
If we can put it on the agenda for discussion.
I've asked for it a couple times. I think it needs to be put on the agenda, and we have to finalize it. We don't need any presentations. I don't think I have enough information. I think it would be more of a board discussion from my perspective. Okay, anything else, Joe?
No, I'm good.
Okay, Commissioner Notch?
Yeah, I was just going to mention, you know, yesterday we had a county extension meeting, and it was pretty interesting. So the 4-H auction, which always takes, you know, place at the fair, so they had 74 kids participate with their livestock and other items. $94,000 was raised at that auction by people, you know, supporting that 4-H, and I think 80% goes to the 4-H'er, and the other 20% comes back into 4-H for programming and stuff like that. The other thing, I got 2 handouts here from last week's RSVP meeting. You guys want to, so they have a open house occurring at Whitney on September 18th. We're having a chili feed, wine pool, silent auction. You know, if anybody would like to attend that, because we do provide them with some funding up to $10,000. And then they also are gonna have an Aging with Intention workshop October 9th. So I just thought I'd pass those out in case anybody's interested or would like to attend. That is all I have.
Okay. Couple of things, at the Extension Committee meeting yesterday, there's a project, they've done this before. It's called Annie's Project Retreat. It's about focus on farm women. It's gonna be October 3rd through the 5th. It's gonna be by the Princeton, Cambridge rural area. I'm gonna have this on a lot of my stuff. I think it's a great program. It costs $200. A lot of women participate in this, so that's something that, if you're interested, either get a hold of me or go to the Extension website. And one thing I failed to mention in the last couple, the phone service issues that we've been having primarily with Health and Human Services, I knew about this years ago, and I didn't dig into it until recently, but Stearns Bank in Norm Skalicki, a wonderful man, I knew him, others of us have known him. He created a one-call answering system, and that exists yet today. And I visited with several of those employees at Stearns Bank. I really think it would pay for us to have a conversation with them. One ring and somebody live talks to them. So if you call in, you get one ring, and a professor at St. John's and St. Ben's did a review on this. But anyway, so the phone rings once, a live person answers, and then if that live person obviously can't deal with your issue or whatever, they transfer it to another person live. It never goes into an answering system. And they're getting 1,000 calls a day. So I think there's some, and we really invested in that phone system. I think there's a way for us to continue to build on that to get to that level, because that would decrease the amount of calls, in my opinion. But I don't know how we look into that, but I think we should pursue that. And then the last and most important thing, of course, Commissioner Knott, just too humble, but tomorrow's his birthday, so if you want to say happy birthday to him. I thought that's what he was going to say when he said, I've got something important to share, but I guess it wasn't. We're all getting older, Commissioner Knott.
Okay,
Yep, happy birthday.
thanks.
Okay, nothing else? Meeting's adjourned. Thank you.